Remote work is challenging, and to help combat this, Aerial Robotics Club members will have the opportunity to check out one of the club's remote work kits, which includes a DJI Tello drone, small enough to fly indoors without any special waivers, as well as an extra battery. The Tello connects to your phone, but is also able to be programmed with Python or MATLAB. This allows for precise control and a wide range of applications. But that's not all ARC is hoping to do this year. We want your help deciding what to focus on next, be it autonomous path planning, larger scale air mobility, cutting edge machine learning, or fixed wing atmospheric research. The path is yours to forge, and we're here to support it. Use the QR code on screen or email us to get involved.
Vex Robotics competition, Change Up.
Change Up is played on a 12-foot by 12-foot field by two alliances, one red and one blue, made up of two teams each.
The object of the game is to get more points than the other alliance by scoring balls in goals and by connecting rows.
The VRC Change-Up field contains 32 balls, 16 red and 16 blue. Each robot starts the match with one of their corresponding balls as a preload. In addition, there are 9 goals located around the field where balls can be scored.
Balls are 6.3 inches in diameter and are worth 1 point for the corresponding alliance color when scored in a goal.
An alliance can take ownership of a goal by having the top scored ball in the goal. If an alliance has 3 owned goals in a row, they will receive a bonus of 6 points for connecting the row. But watch out.
During the driver control period, robots can remove balls from any goal at any time. This means that even if a goal looks full, an opponent could descore one of your balls, open a spot for a ball of their own, and interrupt a connected row. No scored balls or connected rows are safe. Each match begins with a 15-second autonomous period where robots score on their side of the field without help from their drivers. The alliance that scores more points in the autonomous period is awarded with a 6-point bonus added to the final score at the end of the match. This year, each alliance also has the opportunity to earn an additional win point in the autonomous period by completing their home row. The home row is the row of goals closest to their own alliance station.
The 1-minute, 45-second driver control period begins once the autonomous bonus winner has been determined. At the end of the driver control period, after all objects and robots have come to rest, the match will be scored to determine the winning alliance. Remember, VRC games are not scored until the driver control period has ended.
Official rules and game information for Vex Robotics competition Change Up can be found at roboticseducation.org or vexrobotics.com.
Hi, my name is Mia.
And I'm Kaylin.
And we're going to talk to you about DBF.
So CUDBF competes in an American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics aircraft design competition. So they give us objectives and rules in September about carrying payloads or passengers. We divide into sub-teams that each work on specific aircraft aspects, and then design, build, and fly our own plane to fit these objectives, including producing a full design report about every aspect of design, and then going to the worldwide AIAA DBF competition in April. Anyone is welcome to join. You don't need to be an aerospace engineer or an engineer at all.
So we do have a couple different sub-teams. We have aerodynamics, they deal with a lot of our lifting devices. Structures deals with kind of putting the whole plane onto one structure. Propulsion deals with a lot of the way we get into the air.
Avionics designs the aircraft's electrical systems. The systems team integrates all these components into the whole. And project management budgets, timelines, does outreach, and makes final design decisions.
So we do want to make sure that we are prepared for COVID-19. So all of our meetings are going to be online via Zoom. Good thing is we do most of our design stuff online anyways, so that we won't pose much of a problem. And we do communicate via Slack and email, and anything that AIAA sends us will be communicated to the team as soon as we receive it. Thank you guys so much. And if you guys have any questions, please send us an email at dbf@colorado.edu. Thank you.
The Flying Club at CU is by and for those who crave the ultimate freedom. We love the adrenaline rush of leaving the bounds of Earth, soaring into the limitless sky. If this sounds like something you want to experience, you gotta join our club now. As a member, we offer some perks to help you get started on your aviation journey. For example, we offer a ground school course every semester where you'll learn the knowledge of flight. And this will help you pass your required knowledge test for your pilot's license. And one of our other hallmarks is our flyouts every semester. We'll get the club together and fly somewhere exciting, be it a restaurant, a museum, or a scenic retreat. We will have a lot of fun. We also host a barbecue every year in the spring. Barbecue and airplanes, what more could you ask for? And in addition, we only have a few meetings every semester. Some meetings involve a guest speaker, some watching aviation movies, and some just chatting about flying. It's not a big commitment, but it's definitely worth your time. And lastly, you don't even need to be an aerospace engineer or a pilot to join the club. All you need is an adventurous heart. So, join the club today. See flyingclub@cu.com.
Robosub is an underwater autonomous vehicle club at CU Boulder. We're mainly a group of undergrads. We participate in a competitive international competition
where teams of students design underwater autonomous vehicles that need to demonstrate their autonomy by completing several tasks underwater.
Our core values include innovation, learning, and collaboration.
My favorite part of Robosub is the combination of undergraduates from different majors all working on one project.
My favorite part of Robosub is the people on the team.
My favorite parts of Robosub are the challenge itself and the people.
I think that employers really like Robosub. They love to hear me talk about a project that I'm both passionate about and learn a lot from.
I'll go next. With respect to technology, each year we get a new challenge. So each year we need to build a new robot. So like DBF, like we start over. So it can be fun and it can be challenging too. With respect to skills, I think each team member walks away with at least some knowledge in mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and computer science. Not including like the time management and teamwork skills that you gain. And all of those skills are useful outside of the club too.
In our case with Robosub, the challenge changes every year, but the changes are relatively minute. It's mainly a game of kind of refining the submarine and your strategy year to year. And so over the years, our team has made a deep investment into creating robust perception pipelines to be able to identify and recognize game pieces with several different lighting and depth conditions. In addition to that, refining our mechanical design to fit more peripherals on the sub and create a smaller footprint while still preserving thermal capacity and being able to expand the submarine and fit more components and capability on it. And as I mentioned earlier, not a lot of our sub is off the shelf, so it's all a lot of custom across all the different hardware and software stacks. So very custom, and we have a lot of different things we're using.
So Flying Club is kind of different in that we don't have a competition that we go to, nothing like that. Our first and foremost, our primary focus is to have fun. So we have fun every time we have a meeting, every time we do a fly out. But like the video said, we also have a ground school that teaches you what you need to know to take your knowledge test for a private pilot. And that's being applied every semester. We have normally somewhere around 15 to 20 people that take the class, and then probably 3 or so of those decide, hey, I'm going to go ahead and take the knowledge test. So they're putting their knowledge into practice, and then most of them go on and start taking flight lessons outside of our club.
Awesome. So we do have a question. If we are only freshmen or sophomores, would it be a problem if we don't know too much about engineering to join any of these clubs?
Okay, so I can start. I still don't know why my photo isn't actually coming up on the screen. But anyways, so you don't really need to know anything at all to go into DBF. I didn't know much of anything, and I'm an aerospace engineering major. So when I got in, a lot of the things that we do is just kind of engineering, just using the methods that they use like in big companies and things like that. Like we have to write reports and do a lot of these different things that AIAA really likes us to do because it helps prepare us for kind of when we get out of school, what are we going to do with it? And yeah. And so you don't have to know anything. I learned most of everything. I'm personally was in the aerodynamics sub-team, and the CFD, the computational fluid dynamics program that we use, I didn't know how to use at all. I now know how to use that, and it's helped me in labs and other things in my major, and it could definitely help you even outside of your major.
So I'll go ahead and jump in next. Doesn't matter what you do, what you don't know, as long as you look at an airplane and you go, oh, that's kind of cool, you're welcome. You are welcome in our club. Don't even worry about, oh, well, I don't have a pilot's license. If you like airplanes, if you like looking at airplanes, come on over.
I can go next. Yeah, so it's with Robosub, it's a similar deal as the last two answers where you don't need any prior experience. Just coming to meetings with passion and being inquisitive is more than enough to join our team. If it's something you're interested in, that's going to take you a long way. In addition to this, we've created onboarding packets for the software, mechanical, and electrical teams. So if you're new and interested in our team, we'll give you the packet and it'll have everything you need to get you started. And we've transitioned our meetings to be fully online this year. So no experience, no location constraints, just have passion and you're good to go.
Okay. I don't want to be a parrot and repeat it what everyone said, but like we always want more members. We can always use more knowledge. And if you're interested, then we're welcome to have you. We build a robot from the ground up. So like you could just build like a really like simple robot because we can teach you everything. Or like we can have somebody who's more experienced maybe in the mechanical design, like lead you through the ropes of it, especially in the computer science side where like never programmed anything, and we can teach you that. And then it's really cool to see like you progress throughout the years and be like, wow, I've learned so much.
Yeah, so the next question we have is how long or how much of a time commitment is the ground class for the flying club?
Sure. So for the ground school class, we're not having this one this semester. Just with COVID, we can't make it work. But generally, it's about an hour and a half twice a week in the evenings. Historically, we've done Tuesday and Thursday at somewhere around 7 or so. It's scheduled 7 to 9. Sometimes it'll go 7 to 8:30. Sometimes it'll just be a real quick review of whatever was on the docket for that week, so it'll only be 30 minutes. But generally, you can expect about an hour to an hour and a half twice a week.
Well, so I guess kind of following up with that, how time consuming would you say each of your clubs are on like a per week basis, let's say?
Okay. So for DBF, we have two different kinds of meetings. We have general meetings that have everyone, all the sub-teams together. We do have leads meetings, but if you're a new member, you probably won't have to go to any of those. And we do have sub-team meetings. So general meetings are normally about on a bi-weekly basis. We do definitely start getting more involved once we get closer to competition because we'll start meeting up more and more just to make sure we get everything built and everything done on time. Obviously, we're not going to be meeting in person at all this semester because we don't really build until spring semester anyways, which is nice. And then sub-team meetings are about on a bi-weekly basis or kind of whenever the sub-team lead figures that they need to have a meeting. But yeah.
Okay, I'll go next. I feel like one of the key questions should have been how is COVID impacting your club? Because I think that changes my answer for like some of these things because typically with a non-COVID like time periods, we would meet twice a week for like 2 to 4 hours, depending on availability, which yes, is a lot. And then also when you get close to competition, which occurs in early spring, we usually go to one in like January or February. Like those weeks are pretty heavy because like there's so much that goes into, you know, making sure your robot works and making sure that like it doesn't fall apart at competition. But because of COVID and CU's policy that we cannot meet in person, or they also won't fund travel, it's a really hard logistics problem for us. And so Buff Robotics is kind of going to be dormant, but we're welcome to like discuss robotics and just have discussion meetings about like what you are interested in and why. Like we could do lunch and learn style meetings. We could like get robotics industry professionals to come in and talk with us, but Buff Robotics will kind of be dormant just this year.
Yes, so following Vex, the COVID has changed some things around. We used to test weekly in the rec center dive well. I don't believe that's going to be happening this semester. And so what we're thinking, similar to what Mia was saying with DBF, is that we'll have weekly meetings with the whole team where we discuss progress, and then throughout the week you'll be discussing and working on Slack and Zoom with the respective electrical, software, mechanical teams. In terms of the least amount of time, I could see getting away with like an hour, maybe 2 a week. But school's always the priority, so if there's a midterm or project or something big coming up, that always takes precedence over club activities.
So for Flying Club, really as much as you want to spend time with us. We like to think we're a pretty fun bunch of people, but if you can only stomach, you know, 1 meeting a semester, that's fine. We don't, you know, there's not really work that gets done. Obviously, if you're taking a ground school course, that's going to be something different. But our general meetings, we normally have 1 per month, so 3 or 4 per semester, unless our members would want to change something in the future. And that's going to be somewhere around an hour per meeting, unless it's a movie, in which case we'll watch the whole movie. I hope people like Top Gun, because we certainly do. But yeah, so it's really, it's up to you. There's no commitment for us, with the exception of the ground school class, and it's really just come as you want.
Okay, so I did want to follow up on something. So while you can kind of have any sort of level of commitment that you want for DBF, the more involved you are, the better chance you'll be a lead and the more you'll get out of the club as well. Because especially towards competition, the people that end up helping out the most are the people that end up in charge of the club the next year typically. Because especially for engineering majors, once you're in senior projects, it's a bit more difficult to be in a club that's designing and doing a decent amount of work. So definitely, the more you put into it, the more you'll get out of it, is kind of what I wanted to get at as well.
Cool. And before we move on to the next question, I just wanted to mention for all the attendees, at the end of the panel, we're going to put up a slide with everyone who was on the panel today, and then a QR code that you can scan to be added to our contact list. And then you can follow up with everyone after that. So just stay tuned for that until the end. And then I think the next question is for DBF. For the building competitions, how are we actually going to build the machines in this environment?
Okay, so in the fall, we're actually not allowed to be in the building at all to do any sort of building. But in the spring, we're still kind of getting more information from them. But what we're thinking is if AIAA even gives us a competition at all, we still don't know. They haven't told us anything and they won't tell us until the beginning of September. So we didn't get to finish our plane from last year, so that's our backup if there is no competition this year. So we can definitely get to finishing that plane. We're gonna have to make sure that everyone has lab access. We're obviously gonna have to be social distancing with masks or whatever the school wants us to do, really. It's not so much dependent on us as it is what the school tells us and what everyone that's coordinating the lab can tell us. But most of the time we work in the aerospace building and they're pretty good about getting deadlines and stuff to us. So we'll let you know when we get that information.
And then are the drone kits that were mentioned only rentals, or do we pay to keep them?
Actually, that is not my club, so I don't know the answer to that one. Sorry about that.
You're fine. Sorry about that. Okay. So I have my pilot's license already and love the idea of a flying club, but I have an interest in learning all technical skills that the other clubs have to offer. How many clubs is too many?
I probably wouldn't recommend doing like more than 2-ish building clubs, especially if you want to get like really involved. Because I was almost on multiple clubs, in multiple building clubs last year, but then I chose DBF, kind of because it's closer to my apartment though. That's a really bad reason, but and like all my friends were in it. You also make a lot of friends in DBF. I never talked about the social aspect either, sorry, but yeah, kind of as many as you want, really, whatever you know you can make time for. And at least for me, the more clubs that you're in, the more experiences you'll get. And while it does seem like it might take away a little bit from your education, to me, it's kind of supplemented. So don't be afraid to join as many clubs as you want.
So I'm going to second what Mia said. Sophomore year, I was on the Formula SAE team, and I was on the Aero sub team, and I was also the vice president for the flying club. And so it was the only way I made it work was because I said, okay, I told FSAE that I had 5 hours a week to work on it. I'm going to spend 5 hours a week, and that 5 hours is going to get me where it gets me, and I'll let my boss know what still needs to be done. I did the same thing for flying club. And so I think if you have good time management skills and you're disciplined with, okay, I'm giving it this much time and that's it, then like Mia said, it's the more the merrier. But you have to be aware that, hey, this club, I'm going to have to cut back on my hours if I want to add these two, and stuff like that. So if you're aware of how much time you're spending on things, then it really can be the more the merrier, because they all supplement your education and they're all so much fun.
I absolutely agree. So I didn't even need to add anything from my side. Good job, guys.
Same here, great answers.
So the next one is, do any of the clubs work with companies for networking?
Ours doesn't work like intimately with other companies, kind of like having networking events, but we do have sponsorships from some companies. In addition, AIAA is a huge organization. It's a worldwide organization. So some companies actually are there and watching the flights. Each year is sponsored by different companies. I think this year we were sponsored by Airbus because we had a passenger plane. And so that was our goal. We had not like actual passengers, like little mini ones. We had to manufacture like small ones. And then the year before, I forget, it was some sort of military company, and we had to like drop a football out of our plane and hit a certain mark on the ground. So each one is sponsored by a different company, and AIAA interacts with these companies a lot.
So for Vex Robotics, during non-COVID times, typically no, just because we're so focused on building our robot that if we were to take time to like go talk to companies who'd be like, well, we can't actually show you our robot yet because it's not actually built yet. But like potentially with COVID and having online meetings now, I think there is going to be more of a focus of, hey, you're interested in robotics. Like, what does that mean? What does that look like for industry? Like, what if you're interested in research? And so if you're interested in the company side or industry or research side of robotics, I think that's what we'll be focusing on this year.
Okay, next. With Robosub, we have corporate sponsors, but we don't do any formal networking events or outings with them. That being said, the competition in San Diego is a networking event itself, where there are tents with different company representatives there from Blue Origin, some robotics companies from Austin. MATLAB was there 2 years ago. So the competition is a networking event itself, but in terms of our club, we don't do any formal outings.
And that's similar for Flying Club. We don't and really have never worked with any companies in the past. We're looking into it to see if maybe we can get a sponsorship or something, help people really get exposed to flying. But as of now and for the foreseeable future, no partnerships or networking with companies like that.
So for the design clubs, you mentioned that most of the design will be remote. What software will be used and how can students acquire it?
Okay, so for DBF, our biggest thing that we use, at least in the aerodynamics thing, it's called XFLR5. It's actually free to download for any sort of computer. Otherwise, we do use MATLAB and we do use SolidWorks a lot, especially in the structures and mechanisms. So they use that a lot. Some of the other things we use are kind of in-house, like we have a CNC machine that cuts different airfoil wings. If you were in the ASCEND 2004, you use that for your glider lab. And so we use kind of the same thing. But a lot of the stuff we use is either in-house or it's free to download on the CU website. I forget the name of it, but you can search CU software download and it should have it on there. So you can just download it yourself.
I can go next. For the mechanical portion of the team, there's a lot of SolidWorks CADing. For the electrical team, they use Altium PCB, and then I think there's a couple students that use Eagle PCB. And for the software team, we do have a full-fledged simulator with real-world physics and game pieces and stuff. And for that, you would need a computer with Ubuntu, and it helps to have a GPU.
So during non-COVID times, we program in a Vex Robotics programming environment called Vex. We use Vex C++ Pro, and then for our mechanical side, we use SolidWorks and CAD. And because you're a CU student, CU gives out CAD licenses. I think you need to go through the ITL or Idea Forge tour, which I don't know if they're doing nowadays, but you could just get a license from CU.
And then the next question is, are any of the clubs national or international? And I think this is talking about having a national organization, but I can unmute the person who asked this as well.
Yeah, sure. So AIAA, even though it's the American Institute of Complicated Words, it's a worldwide competition actually, and that's kind of the reason why everyone was scared about competition last year, because it was supposed to happen in April, and there were multiple teams that were from the UAE and other countries that weren't American. Sorry, that was anyways. But yeah, they were all worried because they were actually banned from coming to America during the time when we were starting to have all the stay-at-home orders, so they of course had to cancel the competition. But yeah, most teams didn't even get to finish building their planes anyways, so yeah, it's international and national at the same time, I think. Yeah, there's a big group chat with a bunch of people from all different schools, so I guess that helps.
Do you want to go, Laura?
It's okay. If you're all ready, go ahead.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So Robosub is international. Yeah, teams from all across the world compete. There's last 2 years ago there were about 55 teams.
All right. Vex Robotics is international. If anybody was a part of First Robotics, you know that there's competitions at like the state level and then the national level before the world level. But in Vex Robotics, they just jump from state to world, which is pretty cool, honestly. Like Vex Robotics went to the world competition a few years ago, and then they also competed in China, I think 3 years ago. So like, yes, it's definitely international.
No, we're not, unfortunately. We are the flying club at CU, not at Colorado or at World, unfortunately, but you know, we welcome everybody. No competitions like that, but plenty of good fun.
So do we have to apply to be a part of any of these organizations, or can we just start attending?
Yeah, there's no application or anything. Just come to a meeting. Yeah, you don't have to come to every meeting. You don't have to come to everything. You'll still be a part of the club. It's just you probably won't get a leadership position. But yeah, no applications needed.
So for us, no applications needed. Same thing. Come to a meeting, eat some pizza, drink some soda next semester, hopefully. Unless, and it's going to be a shameless plug here, unless you're interested in the freshman or sophomore officer positions. We're looking for both of those right now, and that's going to be on our website and on a little email we'll send out, and that's just a quick, who are you, what year are you, why do you like planes? So if you're interested in an officer position, then yes, you have to apply for it, but otherwise just come and drink and be merry.
No application needed. Just go to www.corobosub.com and there's a contact us button, and you can send us an email or DM us or whatever, and we'll get you invited to our Slack and up and going. Don't have to attend all the meetings, and no application needed.
Okay, I'm sorry if I distracted anybody with my facial expressions right then. There's not a light currently in this room, and so I was messing with the brightness, and I accidentally clicked the volume, and I was like, wait, I don't want people screaming at me, so, and then I turned it up way too bright. I apparently am technologically challenged, even though I'm a CS major. I apologize. Okay, the question is, do you need to apply? Okay, based on my technological experience, if we had people apply, no, like, no, then I wouldn't have been accepted. And like, I'm the president, so definitely no applications. We always want more members because like building a robot is hard and doing it alone is super sucky. So please come join us. We want everyone and anyone who's interested.
So if people can just attend, do you guys have a first meeting date set, or are you already starting?
We don't have ours yet, just because we're still waiting on AIAA to send us kind of what's happening this year. Sometimes they're famously late sending us things, so crossing our fingers. We're aiming for beginning to mid-September. That's normally when our first meeting is. And we try and do ours on Fridays just because a lot of the engineering majors don't tend to have classes on Fridays. I don't, at least that's what we're going to try for our general meetings, and then sub-team meetings are kind of going to just be whenever the sub-team votes on it. So yeah, and they'll all be on Zoom, so don't worry about going anywhere.
Okay, so we also don't have a first club meeting set just because with COVID, we didn't know if we could meet and then what meetings would look like. So we primarily use Slack and email. So I'm not sure how we'll get that to you, but you're welcome to email us and we'll add you to the Slack. And then we'll talk about what we want to do for our first meeting and then when we want to have it, especially because like we just started school, so like you don't know what your schedule is going to look like or how busy you're going to be. So we don't want to have a meeting that's like you have to be here on Thursdays, otherwise you can't be part of our club.
Right now, I believe we're aiming for a a formal Zoom gathering early September. But whenever you decide to reach out to us or express interest, that's fine. There's no concrete start date that you have to reach.
For us, we actually do have our first meeting set. It's going to be September 9th. Time is still TBD, but our faculty advisor, Dr. G, who, as I was saying earlier, was an accident investigator. Yep, she's awesome. She's going to be giving a presentation on an accident that she investigated and kind of her experience with that and what she did, which will be really exciting. So definitely, if you're interested, sign up for our list on our website, and we'll send you an email when we have a time set.
Also, if I may brag, we also have Dr. Ma as one of our advisors, and he's like the coolest out of all he's like one of the best aerospace teachers ever. So, I mean, hey, if you want to interact with Ma more, I highly recommend this club.
So it seems that each of the design clubs have sub-teams that focus on a certain aspect, field of engineering, electrical, or mechanical. How much multidisciplinary learning do you do if you are in one of the sub-teams?
It kind of depends. So with our sub-teams, they all have to work together, obviously. And I'd say the biggest learning in any sub-team, besides, of course, what kind of system you're learning on, is definitely learning to work as a group, because some sub-teams will change things and then that impacts what you're doing. Like last year, I was on the aerodynamics sub-team and project management, and mechanisms decided instead of doing a mid-wing, they wanted to do a high wings. Then we had to change all our designs, and then things happen. So definitely it's some multidisciplinary learning. They'll definitely teach you everything you need to know, though, which is really nice. They won't just kind of throw you to the wolves and be like, go do CAD or go design a circuit. They'll guide you through the process, and it's definitely a learning experience.
Yeah, so for Robosub, as Mia indicated, there is some cross collaboration between the different sub-teams. And at least with ours, you can kind of do what you want. If you want to dabble with each, that totally works. But like Mia was saying earlier, what you get out, what you put into it. And so if you really dive into a respective sub-team, then you're going to yield a lot in return. But you have the freedom to kind of dabble with all the sub-teams if you wish.
During non-COVID times, I think our build process is usually pretty fluid. So we don't assign anybody as a specific team. It's more like, what are you interested in working on during this part of the build? Because in the beginning, you do need to brainstorm mechanisms to solve the challenge, and then you do need to start prototyping that and then building that. And obviously you can't program anything if you have nothing yet. So it's kind of just that process of this is where we're at the stage of the build, and this is what we need to work on.
So someone said that they looked at the Robosub website and said that it was under the process of transitioning.
Yes, I saw that question. I just went to Google now, and if you do www.co, not cu, co-robosub.com, our website should pop up. So please try that, and that should work.
So someone just came in, they said, where can I go to sign up for DBF, or at least to find a schedule?
Okay, so we don't really have a kind of dedicated schedule yet, but I would definitely email dbf@colorado.edu if you're interested, and we can add you to our mailing list. And then we'll try and do the Slack sign up once I forgot to mention, we also use Slack. Everyone uses Slack. So I don't know if everyone uses Slack, but at least most clubs I've found all use Slack. So we'll definitely get that at the first meeting as well, just because we want to make sure that you're really interested. We don't kind of want to have you getting all these notifications that you don't want. So yeah, email dbf@colorado.edu and we'll get in touch with you.
Flying Club likes to use 2 cans and a string.
That's awesome. Okay, the next question is, what is the biggest project or challenge that the club has encountered?
Definitely last year, our competition getting canceled. That was we basically had to stop and not even get to finishing our design report. We couldn't even finish the plane. We had to do nothing. And so we lost a bit of engagement with that because people kind of just forgot we existed. So yeah, it's been a bit of a challenge getting people. So if you want to sign up, please do email us. It's this at Colorado.edu. This is where my name is shown. But yeah.
So with Vex Robotics, because we get a new challenge each year, I don't know if there's anything that's been our biggest like project or challenge, because like all of it is big, right? But when you get to the autonomous programming part of the challenge, usually by then we have like spent the first semester like building and like making a really solid robot. So then when we start going into the programming aspect, it's usually the autonomous part, because I mean, it's a robot that you hope is doing what you want, and you program and you hope it does what you want, and then it doesn't. And then during competition, you're like, okay, go. We really pray and hope, and then it like decides it's gonna veer off, and you're just like, we'll go back to the drawing board. So maybe that's our biggest challenge.
In terms of robot, I'll talk about kind of a club challenge and then a technical challenge. COVID hit us pretty hard. We build physical submarines, robotics, and so not being able to meet in person was difficult. In addition to that, they closed down all of the shop spaces, so we had to like grab all of our stuff and out of our shop and put it in several people's homes. So in a lot of regards, progress stopped. But this summer we reevaluated a lot of our processes and have a path going forward of how we can continue progress this semester virtually, and then we're waiting to see what happens with spring before we plan anything with that. In terms of a technical hurdle, our competition 2 years ago, during our finals round, we lost sight in one of the cameras of a game piece, and so because it drove by and lost sight, the sub timed out and then moved on to the next challenge. So what we've essentially done to avoid that issue is basically given the submarine a memory. So it can remember at each position at each time where it saw the different game pieces. So if it were to go out of frame, it could like step back, go back on the breadcrumbs and see where to go to find the game piece. And so hopefully we won't have any timeout issues this year, and that should give us some more flexibility and chances to earn points.
So a challenge for us has, no technical kind of stuff, but it's really been engagement, not just for COVID, but engagement in general. We don't have a project that everyone's working on. So we really have to, for each of our meetings, have to think of, okay, what do people want to see? How can we keep them coming back? And unfortunately, here's where COVID comes in. COVID came in, and what do you know? We had one meeting, and now we're dead in the water, not by our own volition, but we're dead in the water nonetheless. So really trying to just keep that engagement as we go along in the semester, as people get more busy.
Yeah, so I forgot to talk about something like actually happened in competition, because this is pretty interesting. So at the last competition we were at, our plane actually broke, like completely. But the good thing is they actually let us manufacture like extra parts. So at competition, what we do is we actually get like a huge Airbnb for like 20 people. And so they basically turned it into a shop. And at competition, in this random Airbnb, they rebuilt the whole plane, and then they were off flying next day. So I guess that was a good example besides COVID.
Yeah, so I think we're going to wrap it up with one more question. What is one piece of advice you would give to all incoming freshmen?
I would say don't be afraid to go and join something. But another piece that goes along with that is don't try and think that you know more than the seniors, because they will give you an ego check, and I've had it before. Not fun. Definitely and also just don't be afraid. I probably just contradicted myself, but don't be afraid. They're very welcoming for the most part. My club is welcoming. Just
Yeah, my advice would be to these sort of extracurriculars and clubs really supplement your educational experience, but they also give you a lot of real world experience that employers like to see and hear about. They boost your confidence. They give you an opportunity to meet friends that, for instance, maybe aren't in your dorm or in your little hub that you're in currently, and really give you an opportunity to grow both kind of interpersonally and technically. And because they play an important role in your college experience, I think it's important to find the student org that's right for you. So if you check out Flying Club, check out Vex, check out DBF, check out Robosub, and see which ones you like, see which ones you don't like. And it's totally fine to sample the different clubs. And I think we would all be open to have students maybe try stuff out, and then if it doesn't work, go on to another one. But find what fits for you. And I think that will really pay off in your college experience.
So I can go ahead and go next. Maybe too somber or too serious, but my recommendation and my advice would be to remember what you're here for. You're here to get a however long you're here degree. I'm going to be here for 5 years, but you're going to graduate and that's what you're really here at college for. You're here to meet friends too. You're here to have fun in clubs and stuff like that, and you should do that. But don't explore your boundaries, explore what clubs you want to get into, and do things that interest you and excite you. But if they can be things that move along your knowledge base, if they can be things that keep you focused on aerospace, that's good too, because at the end of the however long you're going to be here, you're going to have your degree, and you're going to have a collection of, hey, I was this officer in this club, or I did this for this organization, and that's what you're going to be left with. So make sure you remember why you're here and really apply yourself towards that.
So I wanted to go last from the beginning because I always feel like there should be a lot of advice that I'm sharing with new freshmen. But like now that I've heard all the panelists, I feel like there's more thinking that needs to be done, and I also don't know what to say still. So let's see. A lot of it is probably a repeat, but you're here to explore and to learn, and like maybe this goes against what other people like want to retain club members, but like if you're not interested in the club, then like what are you doing, right? CU has so many opportunities, and I don't just mean with like our engineering clubs listed here today, like the professional aspect, just the educational aspect. There are so many ways to get involved, and so many ways that you can find a family here at CU, and like go out and find them. I think that's really important. I am an out-of-state student, and like, wow, I didn't know anybody. That was so scary. But like, I found clubs that welcomed me and that I enjoyed, and I've gotten leadership positions out of them, and that looks great on resumes. So get engaged, get involved, and remember to have fun. I spent a lot of time like at CU, and I mean literally at CU. People were like, "What can you do in Boulder?" And I'm like, you can go to this like EC, you could go to C4C, right? So remember just to enjoy your college experience and get out and enjoy what you have, because as somebody was telling me in the workforce, they're like, yeah, I wish I could just have a Thursday like afternoon where I could just like lay around and watch Friends. Like now I have a job and I have to like stay here and work.
Yeah, that's awesome advice. And yeah, I just wanted to thank everyone for their time and answering all these questions. And for the attendees, I'm just going to share my screen and you can sign in with the QR code. This will kind of put you on a contact list, and then we can follow up if needed. If you have any more questions or if you want to find out more. Yeah. Thank you everyone so much.
Thank you. This was great.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate all the work you've done to have us here.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for coming.